Hello, hello. Welcome to Citizen McCain. I am Miranda Wilkins, and Megan is still out on maternity leave. Like I told you, she would not be here today. She is like any sane person would be doing, avoiding this current news cycle because I don't know about you guys, but if I could be in baby bliss heaven, ignoring all of this and just kind of binge watching my favorite shows while getting very scattered and broken sleep, that's what I would be doing. So. Yeah, we wish her the best. I absolutely love Megan. I've been on the phone with her probably nonstop for the last week, plotting her return, which is very, very soon. So everybody get excited, but it is not today and it's not going to be next week. So, if you keep hearing rumors, please just wait until you hear it from us because we will tell you, I promise. It's not going to be like some big surprise that we just spring on you and surprise, here she is. So, if you're watching right now on YouTube and you want to come join us here, please register on the Zoom. Ashley will let you in immediately, and then you can raise your digital hand and you can talk to us. And by us, I mean Ryan Girdusky. He's the host of the 17, or excuse me, he's the host of the National.
No, host of the
I,
Numbers Game podcast on iHeartRadio
I
and
have it
everywhere you
here.
get your podcasts.
You do it. You do it. No, he's
Numbers
with
Game
us.
podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. My new
He's
podcast episode's out today.
Oh, new episode today. And he's
Yes.
with the 1776 Project Pack. And you've got a Substack, the National Populist Substack, if you
Yeah.
already said that. And then Yemisi Egbewole, former chief of staff to the Biden White House press office. And I have a lot of stuff for you today, specifically with that, because there's a lot of weird messaging stuff going out this past couple of weeks that I want to get your take on specifically. But and now you're a consultant and a commentator and just all around amazing woman. And we can find Yemisi on TikTok and Instagram, Yemyaz, Yemyamz, and at Yemisi on X because your X got restored, thankfully.
Thank you, Megan.
Yes, thanks to Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
So
Yeah.
Oy, okay, guys. Let's get the I think it's called eating the frog. Let's just get it out of the way. We'll get it. Let's just jump into Iran and then we can do more, stateside craziness stuff because I really want to get into, even though it happened a few days ago, I want to talk about Kristi Noem because
Mhm.
that's just a whole mishigas. So Iran, the latest. Is it almost over? Operation Fury, I've got a feeling it's is kind of the vibe for me is what it's called because just right off the top, last week we talked about the mixed messaging with Marco Rubio saying, "Oh, we got intelligence that Iran was going to strike the US." And then a couple of days later, he had to walk it back after Caroline Levitt and President Trump said, "Oh, actually it was based on a feeling that President Trump had," which kind of like made me like reminded me of when Candace Owens was like, "I had a dream that Charlie Kirk this, that, or whatever." And it's like, okay, if Kamala Harris had been elected president and she's like, we're going to go to war because I just have a feeling. It's a vibe. I'm catching a vibe. Um, I think everybody would be collectively losing their shit. So we can't be doing things based on feelings and vibes and whispers or maybe this is going to happen. So as this situation continues to escalate, another major rounds of strikes are going on. And it came out in Axios today, and I'm actually going to pull it up on my phone because I sent it to Ashley right before the show, a quote that was sent to Axios. But Trump told Axios this morning, the US has practically nothing left to target in Iran. And if you look at the pictures, there is nothing there. It's just a wasteland. So, um, now they're threatening to block oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, and they're possibly deploying naval mines using small boats. We have a video that we can just play underneath while we're talking, Ashley. This is the Colin Rugg tweet where he's showing the videos of the ships in the strait exploding. And Trump posted on social media on Truth Social that, if Iran has placed mines in the strait, they must be removed immediately. And military consequences will be seen at a level never seen before. Um, Quinnipiac polling from either yesterday or the day before this week is showing that a majority of voters oppose this military action. People don't like it. And especially when you consider that he's talking almost like flippantly, cavalierly about maybe there's going to be boots on the ground, people are going to die. That's kind of like what happens. And you know, he said it very kind of casually. So I want to ask you, Ryan, Republicans historically tend to rally around military action, at least initially. Do you, do you think that the base is around the MAGA base, President Trump's base is around these strikes? Because he ran on no new wars. Tulsi Gabbard famously tweeted, "No war with Iran," that people are kind of memeing now with no comma war with Iran exclamation point. So I mean the Simpsons meme. So it's like what's going on? Because there seems to be deep hesitation within the MAGA coalition about getting pulled deeper into another Middle East conflict.
So, okay, the a lot to chew on. First,
Sorry.
can I just say side part about the dream comment? If you
Yes.
say that if you say
It's not
you've
like
had a
I have a dream, but
no, but
you know.
if you say you've had a dream about something, you can't get sued in litigation. That's why
Oh,
you say I
okay.
have a
So there's
dream
a
about a
legal
hunch.
angle to that.
I
Writing
literally
this
talked
down.
to,
I'm writing this
yes,
down.
just write that down. Say if you have a scoop, like, oh, I had a dream. That means you can't get sued because it's
Okay.
just a dream.
So
Okay,
side note, that might be why Candace keeps saying she's getting
dreaming about
messages from
things.
Charlie in her dreams. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Got it.
Secondly, about the actual Iran strike. So, the timeline, I did a whole episode about this for the podcast. I really try to understand the timeline because it's very confusing. So, a couple months ago, you had Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner go to Iran about their mid-range ballistic missile program and trying to downgrade it in exchange for non-military nuclear energy, basically as an exchange to get rid of their mid-range ballistic missile program. Iran came back with a 7-page paper saying, actually, we're going to enrich uranium again. So, feeling that they were not getting a deal from Iran, the government of Israel and the government of Saudi Arabia were both heavily lobbying Trump to strike them. We did. It was successful. We blew up their mid-range things because, as Marco Rubio said in the initial press conference, they were building them in bunkers that would be impossible to take out later on. So there was no way. And then, of course, Israel said they were going to strike, so we would have hit our bases across the Middle East. That's like the long and short, and that makes sense. Like that makes it's a very linear thing of like what was going on beforehand, why we did it, and what were our accomplishments, our goals were. Trump is really not. I don't think Trump is committed to a democracy in Iran. I don't think he cares. I think he wants some kind of leadership willing to negotiate over their ballistic missiles program. This current one was, well, the deceased one was not going to. Um, that being said, I think Israel's goal is to have a different administration run Iran. I don't know if that's necessarily democracy, but something other than the current group running it. I think there's a misconnection between what Israel's goals are and what the Americans' goals are. And that's where we kind of find ourselves. And something's got to happen where they have to be willing to have a Venezuela moment and come to the table at some point. I think the MAGA base is supportive so long as we don't send boots on the ground, because that will be a change. Because as of right now, it's Iran is a very divorced from reality moment. We're sending missiles, we're blowing stuff up, but it's not, aside from gas prices, not affecting people's day to day. Once boots are on the ground, once soldiers are dying, and then it changes the entire. I mean, we've had a few soldiers die, but once we
Yeah.
have a lot of soldiers die, it changes the dichotomy completely. So I support trying to stop them from getting mid-range ballistic missiles. I think that you have to find a way to get them to the table, to the negotiating table, because you can't do regime change from an airstrike. It's just impossible.
Do you think that this is an actual opportunity, or that the administration sees this as an actual opportunity to liberate the people of Iran, or is this another and maybe this is me being conspiratorial or pessimistic, but is this another uh place for a new Trump resort and golf course, and
No, I
that's kind of what
mean,
they're leveling it out for?
no, because also I don't think Iran has like amazing beaches near like I like The beaches in Palestine probably are much better than the beaches
Well,
in
they are.
Iran.
Yes.
But I mean, it's a mountainous area. I don't know. I don't think that that's it at all. I think that it's just to set someone to do a negotiation. And also, second term administrations for every president historically have been about foreign policy. They are the legacy making presidencies. Clinton did it, obviously, in Israel and Palestine. Obama did it with Iran. George W. Bush, I mean, that was actually first term and second term. But
Yeah.
you
Pretty
have
early in too. Yeah. Right.
you
Right off the
have
bat. Yeah.
presidents who really focus on foreign policy as a second term thing. And I think because Venezuela was flawless in its execution, um, President Trump thinks, hey, I can get rid of these dictators, have these flawless operations, and that's my legacy. And I'll finally get that Nobel Peace Prize. I think that part of that goes into his head. Iran also threatened and worked to try to kill him, so I'm sure that goes into his head as well. After Soleimani was killed in that strike. Uh, so I think that all those things play a factor, but I think for the purpose of American people, it should be what should be the linear thought of we try to negotiate, negotiations failed. They said they were going to enrich nuclear uranium. They were going to build these ballistic missiles underground. We had to take them out. I think that he will take anyone willing to negotiate. I don't think that he cares about a democracy necessarily, as long as it's someone willing to negotiate. Like the current leader of Venezuela, it's still like a communist. It's still somebody like Maduro,
Right.
but they're willing to negotiate. And all of that, all he cares about is the negotiation.
Okay, so Yemisi, Democrats historically have a wide range of views when it comes to like military intervention, especially this kind. Are you seeing any kind of like unified response forming among the Democratic leaders, or different wings of the party reacting differently to these strikes?
I think you have folks on the far left that don't want to have any conversation about the fact that Iran is evil and detrimental to American safety, right? Iran, their partnership with Putin, and we know Russia has had communication with Iran. There's a part of the party that doesn't want to have that conversation. Most Democratic lawmakers that you see will say, yes, like security and safety of America is ensuring that we know, one, what's happening with nuclear missiles in Iran, and two, partnership with Israel. Most Democratic lawmakers are just not uncomfortable saying that. I think where the uncomfortability comes into it is being left out of the conversation. Yes, Secretary Marco Rubio briefed the Gang of Eight. Yes, there have been some closed classified briefings, but for the most part, they do feel left out of the information that they are getting, and also verifying the information. Like when it came to the school of young girls, at first there were conflicting reports. Did we double tap? What was it initially a kind of a mistake? And if it was a mistake, how do you end up double tapping a school? I think Senator John Kennedy has been a really great communicator on the Republican side for the president, admitting that it was a mistake, sending out deep condolences and sympathies. I think he's somebody that can work in partnership with Democratic lawmakers. But let me tell you something. Get Lindsey Graham off the TV now.
Oh my God,
if you
yes.
want anyone to be on your side about this, if you want people to remain sympathetic as U.S. soldiers are dying overseas, Jennifer Jacobs from CBS News reported that the drone strike that killed U.S. servicemen and women was also dramatic in the way that it injured dozens that are now facing brain injuries, that have had to be hospitalized. Look, war happens overseas, and to the everyday life of an American, it doesn't register. We hear things and we go, that's tragic, but you're right, it doesn't disrupt our lives. When I'm going about my business and I see a South Carolina lawmaker on TV talking about, I'm going to go back to South Carolina and tell those men and women in South Carolina I'm sending their sons and daughters overseas. What is he talking about? I've watched all of his TV hits. He's almost giddy.
He sounds insane. Like I'm watching him and I don't want to accuse him of anything, so allegedly, but he's on TV and he sounds like hammered. Like he's just like, we're gonna unleash holy hell and all this crazy.
Yes,
he sounds like
he's
a
like,
nut.
we're moving. Did you see where he told Sean Hannity, God bless the United States, we're moving all our stuff to Israel? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I'm like, what do they have on you, dude? Because this is
That's where I
it's
get conspiratorial.
Yeah,
That's where I jump
exactly.
into the pot with you.
I'm with
I think
you.
that this is true in his blood. I don't think they need anything on him. I think that he's been like this for 25 years.
Yeah.
Like he's
Sure. I mean,
been
it's no secret he's a war hawk,
he's a
for
warhawk.
sure. But
Yeah,
it's like, he doesn't have children to
of course.
sacrifice. He can't understand the pain that these parents are feeling. My best friend, her son just turned 15. She's petrified that if they were to instill a draft, like, he'd be going. So
Yeah.
it's like, to be going on TV and just so rah rah, let's go is terrifying to Americans, especially when the messaging has been so unclear about why in the hell are we even doing this
Right. The
in the
messaging
first
has been
place?
bad. Can I just say that as I had a friend who is a fellow geriatric millennial who said, I hope we don't get drafted. And I was like, dude, we are middle
We're
aged now.
so
Like, time
old.
to
They don't.
wake up to how old we actually are. But
This is
yeah, I
not going
think
to
the
be our problem, but it is going to be our kids'
Well, it's
problem.
crazy,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
because
know.
one of the service members that died was born like a couple years after 9/11. I was like, could you imagine being born into this conflict and then you die once again in the Middle East?
They weren't even
Yeah.
alive when this
Yeah.
conflict started, technically. Yeah,
Yeah, that
that's
kid from
wild.
Kentucky. Yeah, it's horrible and it's terrible. And what I really want to know that no one's talked about is that bombing with the school with girls. I want to know if it was AI that picked that site because AI is doing a lot of our precision stuff and it may not have been a human intelligence, it may have been AI. And
I've seen that.
I really want to know if it was an A. I think it has to be an investigation. Listen, mistakes happen. It's tragic, all the rest of it. But was it a human intelligence? Was it intelligent, like foreign intelligence? Or was it that we are increasingly using AI to pick targets out on military strikes and they targeted a school? I think that that really should be looked at as they're increasingly using AI to do these targets.
Especially considering this administration and how heavily they've relied on the use of AI, it would
Mm.
not surprise me that they're using an AI in combined with maybe some kind of like, Google Earth maps that aren't totally currently up to date. I can't imagine the Ayatollah was cool with like the Google map cars driving around and remapping all of their sites that close to their military bases. So, I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but yeah, I've seen those on X, the maps where they were, going back and forth over it,
Mm.
showing that yes, this did used to be part of the military facility, and more recently, within I don't know how many years,
Or
it did move into
if
a
an
school.
AI had conflicting information they were trying to process and they used them both and ruled it this way. You never know, but something like that should be looked at to make sure we don't do more civilian targets in the future in any future conflict. If like that happens with AI, then maybe we shouldn't be using AI as the authority. I don't know if it was. I'm just saying if it was,
Yeah.
that's a really important thing that should be taken from this whole experience.
Fair. And if the whole point is to go in there and help liberate the women specifically of Iran, how are we doing that? By blowing up busloads of
Little
little
girls.
little
Yeah.
girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, stepping back, and then we can kind of move into why Margot Rubio is just crushing JD Vance in all aspects of everywhere in life. A lot of Americans are trying to understand the bigger objective here, and myself included. And, is the goal deterrence from a nuclear weapon? Because, we've all seen the video of Netanyahu and other world leaders over the last 20, 30 decades saying Iran is just 3 days away from a nuclear weapon and we're all in imminent danger and, duck and cover. So, is it stopping their nuclear capabilities? Is it weakening the regime? Because I know that President Trump has said he wants to personally handpick their next leader, which he did not get a say, and now that guy's been injured. Maybe the news is all very fuzzy. So, or is this just simply preventing escalation in the region? Because, depending on which goal you think the administration is pursuing, the path forward could look very different. So, what do you think happens now? What is the point? And this is open to both of you, obviously.
Yemisi, you want to go?
What do I think happens now and what is the point? I mean, I think we enter into a conflict that I don't really know when the end date is. I think we get ourselves back into a spiral. Look, when Biden was running, one of the things he promised and one of the promises he made, like in his first 100 days on the campaign trail, in his first 100 days was, we're getting out of Afghanistan. It's a much easier thing to say that you're leaving and exiting something that you've been in for a minute. We know that saying it is one thing, actually executing it is another thing. I think even just leaving the situation now is going to create more of a mess than it was going into it in the first place. So
Sure.
I think we've got to really strap and buckle in here.
Yeah, I think that eventually, I think strikes will continue for a bit of time, but I do think that Iran's going to come to the table eventually because they can't keep going on with their leaders being just assassinated over and over again. I mean, at some point, they're going to come to the table and offer something. Now, will that be good enough for the Israelis? I don't know. I think the Israelis' goals and America's are diverting. However, $5 a gallon gas is going to affect voters real quickly, and they're not going to, the patience is going to be very, very small for it. So, we're gonna hit a point. I mean, we're still only in early March, but in a month or two, if that continues, if that steady stream continues, and it's looking like not only the House but the Senate is going into Democratic hands, I could absolutely see Trump saying, "All right, Netanyahu, we're coming to the table with something. Like we're gonna get something from Iran, claim a victory, get gas prices back down, and like let's do a loop and start talking about something else."
Well, and they have a deadline because this hasn't been approved by Congress. So he's got
Mhm.
until I think it's April 29th at the end of April
My
to
birthday.
either oh happy well this will be your
Yeah, that'll be the
will
birthday
be
gift.
That's for you, Ryan.
happy birthday. Is that a Taurus or
I'm a
Aries?
Taurus, yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love a Taurus. Okay, so that explains a lot. I'm a Scorpio, so we get
I'm
along.
up,
Capricorn.
yeah.
Capricorn. Oh my God, and I love a Capricorn. So that's why this is going to be a good show. Okay, so he has until the end of April to get basically his shit together because they have to either approve it or he's got to pull out because then it's, that's why everyone's jumping up and down and saying that this is illegal. You have the war powers, you can get into this, but you have to at some point get approval. So we
Yeah.
have a deadline. They have to, and I believe that that's why he said, "Oh, this is going to last, 4 to 6
Yeah,
weeks."
we'll see. We'll
Then
see.
Caroline Levitt is like, I don't know where
Yeah.
he came up with that. It's like, well, this is where he came up with that number is because you got to float something.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out. It remains to be seen, and we'll figure it out because he's not exactly one to follow the rules, and
Exactly. And I also think if you give him a deadline, he might just not do the deadline just because you put it out there.
oh, I know. Yeah, he loves to be like, just going to do whatever I want. Look what happened with the Supreme Court a couple weeks ago. So there is that. There was one more thing I wanted to say about this, but I lost it. So if I remember, we'll go back to it. The geopolitical stakes are enormous, but it's putting a spotlight on people in the administration who are handling it. And right now, who's not handling it? Because all I'm hearing about is, Pete Hegseth and oh, I remember what I wanted to say. It was Stephen Miller and that tweet he said about Kamala Harris saying, if you elect Kamala Harris, she will send your sons to war. And I can't help but think that this would not be happening had the election gone a different way. And where's the accountability for, a Stephen Miller with that tweet and that messaging like that? Because there are no boots on the ground exactly yet, but we do have, all nearly 10 American casualties. So it's just something to chew on. And again, if you're in the chat on two-way and you want to participate or you've got something to say, or you want to ask a question or just, give your 2 cents, please raise your digital hand. I can see all of your beautiful faces and we would love to talk to you. So, who's not being talked about, and maybe this is just me, maybe I accidentally put a filter on my browser, but no one's talking about JD Vance. Where is he? What's he doing? Because he's supposed to be the vice president, but Marco Rubio is really just like the shining star of the administration. And he's the most visible figure, I think, right now, aside from the president. handling everything. He's everywhere. And I know we've seen the memes of him in every single uniform possible. The Melania dress, he's in I think my favorite one, and I sent it to Emily, one of our most faithful listeners, is him doing the Ben Affleck exasperated smoking, where he's just in all the garb. He's just like, oh, can I do one day of just not having to be everything to everybody? And here's some DMs about Vance and Rubio that we got from our listeners yesterday, because we put out a question: if it's the election were held tomorrow, who would you pick? And overwhelmingly people chose Rubio over Vance. And they're saying stuff like 53% of our audience wants Rubio, 35 want Vance, and 12% are saying, phew, neither of these guys. One listener, Dawn, she said, it's tough. I liked Rubio years ago. Right now, he's the clearest on message person in the administration. So, and this has been quietly unfolding for some time now, especially considering JD Vance's bizarre alignment with Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, and all of their weird pivoting to anti-Semitism, and that may be why they're keeping him kind of like in the closet and away from the cameras and the public eye. What do you guys think about this? Because, with early polling and primary voters, it's still suggesting that JD is the favorite, but is that name recognition just because he is considered the incumbent, or do people actually like him? Because I don't. And I'll let you guys go, and then I'll give you my whole laundry list of reasons why I do not like JD Vance.
I really do think it leans into name recognition, because I also think this is happening on the Democratic side when polls show Kamala Harris leading as a possible 2028 contender. I think it's the people with the biggest name. It's always Harris, and then it's Newsom. And
yes,
I mean, the two California politicians, I'm just like, do they actually appeal to the larger and wider, like,
I live in California.
electorate?
They don't appeal to me, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, Yemisi is an Andy Bashir girly. So
same.
But also, just to remain not unbiased, I think there are more interesting people like Wes Moore, Josh Shapiro, but we keep seeing
I do
those
like Josh
two
Shapiro
at the top because like they have the highest name recognition. I think the same thing is happening to JD Vance. But look, the VP position is not the one that gets to always be in the situation room with the strikes. Even with Harris, a lot of times she was on screen. It was Biden in the situation room. It was Jake Sullivan, who runs NSA director, who runs NSC, right there with him. Secretary Blinken, Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense. That position also doesn't lend itself to get to always be in the room. So you do end up on the sidelines. And he's obviously in a different position being vice president for Trump, because like he sees beyond this. And it does feel like everything that happens, there is this undercurrent between JD and Rubio, where we as the general public are just watching them. But also, I think fundraisers and donors are also watching them. They're having to tap dance for a much larger audience than we realize as we get closer.
Yeah, it's a smart observation of the donors. So there's a rule, and I forget the name of it, where the vice president and president can't be in the same location during certain situations, like military strikes. So that's why he's not next to Trump a lot in the Situation Room. The thing is that the only vice president to ever lose the nomination for either party, if they pursued it, was Mike Pence, and he lost it against Trump. It has never been a case where any sitting vice president who pursues their party nomination loses their party nomination. So the bet is clearly with Vance, and apparently Rubio and him like each other enough where, he has not, JD didn't tell me this, but I've heard from rumors that they would run together. So who knows?
And Trump floated that this week too, saying
Trump has
that
floated
that's
that
his
several
dream
times.
ticket.
It's been a conversation I think many people have had. That being said, if this military strike goes back, I mean, it should be Rubio out there. He is the Secretary of State, and he's built a lot of trust with the American people as large as a serious player.
And he has way more experience.
Well, he's a senator. I mean, he's a senator. Yeah. I think that if this conflict goes poorly, it is more Rubio's to blame than JD's as someone who's taking ownership of the entire thing. It's also not lost on anybody that Rubio had ambitions in Venezuela and has ambitions for America to get involved in Cuba. That's why Trump is talking about Cuba quite a bit. And it's been a long-standing goal of Rubio's to liberate Cuba. Or to see a free Cuba or whatnot. So I think that as much as, you both are saying, I'm nervous about the Iran conflict, I'm nervous about how bullish Trump has been on military things, and how they walked back their anti-interventionist stances during the primary, you're praising the man who's probably the most pro-intervention person in the room, which is Marco Rubio. So it's a conflict of what your feelings are of a personality versus the policies that they're stating. And I think that is ultimately kind of where the rubber hits the road. And Rubio is a likable guy. I've spoken to him before. I think he's very smart and capable. But sometimes the role of VP, unless your name is Dick Cheney, really does lend itself to being not as present as there should be. I mean, Kamala Harris, our most recent vice president, was constantly doing, tasks that were kind of nothing burgers all the time. I mean, and there was a lot of conflict between the president and vice president, but that's nothing to do with it. Same thing's true with Mike Pence. What was Mike Pence ever doing? Like ever. Like, I mean, it's Al Gore. You couldn't name 3 things he did. When I was a child, there was a very famous show called The Animaniacs that I loved growing up.
I loved The Animaniacs.
And they had an episode where they go to the White House to meet the vice president, and they said, we want to talk to the president. Al Gore says, oh, that's great. Do you know him? So like, it's very, very, why I can remember that from when I was a child and not why I walk in the kitchen.
That's a great roast, though. That's so good.
But that is very true of all the vice presidents. So I wouldn't get hung up on it. Rubio's in a much more, in a bigger spot, but owning this conflict in the long run, when overwhelming Americans really don't want it and really don't want boots on the ground, may not be the win that people think it is.
Who do you like?
I like JD. I worked for JD. I worked for him in the Senate race. I've known him since 2019, I think. I think he's a very smart and capable person. There are things I disagree with him extremely on, but there's a lot I agree with him on. And I think that he understands the temperature check much more than other people do. And I've been listening very closely to what Democrats are kind of doing right now and their identity that they're searching for. And there are some interesting ones that I think are like asking some of the right issues. And I think the Democratic primaries right now are the more important races in the country that are going to be much more important to the future, not only of their party, but the country as a whole. But I haven't heard anyone who kind of gets it, because there's certain things that they're not willing to even remotely move on that I think are just poison pills. Like the fact that they cannot come up with a solution on immigration that is anything more than a shade, different than Obama or Biden. Just like, you people are lost. Like, you're just lost causes because you're nailing it. Democrats are in the middle, in the process of really nailing it on AI. They're having really important conversations. For the listeners, there's a Democratic primary in New York's 12th district. That's Manhattan. It's the Jerry Nadler seat that he's retiring from.
Isn't that Jack Schlossberg? Is that the one he's running for?
Yes, that's JFK
Okay.
Jr.
Alex
versus
Boras.
George Conway versus Alex Boras.
George Conway's in that one. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Being mentally
Kellyanne Conway's husband, for anybody.
Being mentally ill on Maine like crazy. Anyway, he's lost the weight though, so good for him. But there is
Ozempic, who hasn't? Sure.
Anyway, this primary, Alex Boras is an assemblyman who passed this very strict AI regulation that Kathy Hochul watered down, but still it passed. And the AI hacks are spending upwards of $10 million to defeat him in a Democratic primary. If they are successful and they nominate JFK Jr.'s mentally ill grandchild, allegedly,
nephew. Yeah.
What?
It's his nephew.
JFK Jr.'s nephew, JFK's alleged mentally ill grandchild. They will scare enough Democrats and Republicans from having even a conversation over AI regulation. It is of the utmost importance, if we're going to have a serious conversation on a national level, that Alex Boris wins this primary. And I'm saying
Okay,
this as a
but
Republican,
is
he's
JD
got
actually
to
in
win.
favor of AI regulation when he is backed and funded by Peter Thiel?
Well, Peter's not the biggest AI person. And also, I mean, now that was when he was running
Well,
for
and
US
the
Senate.
I mean
Now,
the Ellisons are
well, the Allisons, but now he's backed
taking
by a
control of
billion people.
everything.
Yeah, but JD's backed by a gajillion
Palantir,
people
yeah,
now.
yeah.
That's like saying like, oh, he's backed by the people who support Israel. So why is he this? He's
Sure.
friends with the woman from Vegas whose name I just slipped my mind. But he's backed by a lot of people. So as you become the nominee and as you become the vice president, your support broadens. It's not like it's just, Peter Thiel writing checks left and right to JD. But if Boris loses, and I know it's not the main question, but if Boris loses, I'm afraid the conversation around AI regulation, which is so important, it's probably the most important conversation we could be having as a country right now, will
Yeah.
just end for 5 more years. And by that point, literally, who knows? So I
Yeah.
know that's not the main question, but it's been,
I
that's
think
the,
that's
No, I
fascinating.
I
Yeah.
wholly agree with you, and this is what I talk about with my children. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I regularly go through things on the internet with them to show and try to educate them on AI. Tell them that this is the most important thing that they will have to deal with in their lifetime is being judicious about what they're seeing online, news, real history, and what has been augmented or is just I hate this term, but fake news, fake videos,
yeah, it's true.
and edited photos. And they're actually incredibly great now at identifying AI photos. But I want to Dan, I see your hand. I will get to you in just 1 second, but I want Ryan, I want to get my JD rant off because I want you to change, not necessarily change my mind because I don't foresee a world in which I'd vote for JD Vance for president, but these are just like my feelings about him. And uh, please feel free to correct me because at least this is the narrative that is presented to the public,
I'm
and
ready.
that is
Ready
that
for
like
this.
okay. Get your popcorn. Okay, so doesn't seem that anyone is loyal to him, like he doesn't have a coalition, and he couldn't
You mean a
build.
voter coalition or
Yeah, like
a,
there's not really like a crew. I've never seen or experienced like a J. He doesn't have anyone around him like, there's people who will get up and go vote for President Trump. I don't see anyone or JD making a movement in that same kind of a way. And it's not even a policy way. This isn't like his politics are bad because like you said, the America First isolation, that is very popular. That polls well, no new wars. That's great. And it's not that he's a bad guy. It's just like every time he opens his mouth, he kind of manages to come across like the most awkward guy in the room. And not that that's necessarily super important, but you do have to be likable to become the president. And, I'm going back to that donut shop video, which was incredibly painful to watch. It felt like a closing credits of Veep. So, like he was very Jonah. And so inside the inside the GOP, it doesn't seem like he has a natural base. And he started off like his whole thing was, I'm the never Trump guy. And then as soon as it was politically beneficial for him, he was, kind of he got the fashion treatment, he got overhauled, he got groomed, and he flipped.
he brushed his
But
hair?
he got a new suit and again talk about losing some weight, and he brushed his hair, and he got bought or he got helped by Peter Thiel, and then Don Jr. and Tucker Carlson all gathered around and talked Donald Trump Sr. into, hey, this should be your guy. He's got, middle America base and he's a war hero, or excuse me, not a war hero, but he's a veteran. He wrote this book. He's like a, rags to riches story. People will buy that and like it. But, there's a lot of like identity crises with him, with the name changes and the, just a lot of very weird variables that I can't wrap around him. Like it's almost as if he's like not a real person. And
Okay.
he will just be kind of malleable to whatever it will be. He's a chameleon. He will be whatever you need him to be, which for me does not show any kind of like a backbone or real solid foundation of this is who I am. For Trump, for better or worse, it's like I don't like him. I don't like what he has to say, but at least he's predictable. I know where he's going to go with stuff. With JD,
Well,
he's
you're the one who could predict it because
well,
no one
not,
else
but
can.
you know what I mean. It's kind of like it's like he's the same old story with that guy.
Yeah. Okay. So with JD, so I'll start with the Never Trump thing. When he came out as a Never Trumper in 2015, his evolution towards Trump was very slow and it was very gradual. But by 2020, he was on board with Trump and he was actually reaching out to people to support Trump who did not support him. I have emails that he even sent to Usha that he told Usha, we have to get on board with Trump for 2020. That was way before he ran for office. Also, if you remember, he was when Senator Portman retired rather in Ohio. That was not expected. That happened very unexpectedly, and he did not tell McConnell. He didn't tell anybody. There was no expectation that Portman's seat would be vacant. JD was not going to run in 2022. The conversations that privately were happening, would he run against Sherrod Brown in 2024? This seat opened up, but he was already pro-Trump before that seat opened up. He did not do that for political expediency. And remember, JD was a literary celebrity, which is extremely rare now. Like we don't have literary celebrities who go on Colbert and on Fallon. I mean, JD told me a story of how he went, I think it was white water rafting with Heidi Klum and Seal. I think it was those celebrities, but he was like an actual celebrity in that world. So he did not need this. He did not need to be, hated by every person who had been around him. The change was genuine. As far as the name changes goes, listen, he came from a really colorful background. One I did not experience, one of a lot of instability, of different fathers and father figures coming in and out of his life, and a lot of abuse. And I'm not going to speak to why he decided to ultimately pick the name he did and whatnot. But as far as the transformation towards Trump, that is very genuine. And it did happen over a long period of time. But when it happened, no one cared because no one noticed. Only noticed once the 2022 happened. And as far as do people like him, I'll name two things. One, he did win in Ohio, which was not easy given that it was such a Democratic blowout year in 2022 for the Senate candidates. And he was the only MAGA candidate to really win. Carrie Lake went down. All the other ones went down, Tudor Dixon. And then his debate performance against Tim Walz is the other thing I'll name. Tim Walz was, to quote what the kids are saying, mogging him throughout the entire run up to the primary, to the debate. And JD washed the floor with him. I mean, it wasn't even close. And he came off likable and sincere and respectable to Walz when he talked about his son witnessing a mass shooting. I think that the thing that you're seeing a lot of times with JD is these conversations having with liberal reporters where they're going viral, and he's doing very well for the Republican base. He's doing what he needs to do. It doesn't always make him seem like he is maybe the most likable person. Maybe he could do more of that. However, I think the transformation of his policies and ideology was very sincere. It happened overall. I saw part of it. I was at the very tail end when it was happening, or I saw when it was happening. I think that he has shown that he can win. He can win statewide, being quote unquote unpopular. And I think that he's shown in a debate setting against Tim Walz how he really can show sincerity and honesty in a really magnanimous way.
Can I say I think that was like a brilliant timeline. It's kind of cool to get that insider information about how JD built himself. Because I remember, working in the Senate for Senator Mark Warner, and like the hillbilly elegy, JD Vance, like that was when, if you worked for a Democrat that represented like rural parts of America, you would reach out to JD. I remember when he was like a commentator and did like the C-SPAN fireside chats. But now in the world we live in, how does like JD with Usha win over like that TPUSA crowd? I think that's
they love him. They love him.
But do they love her?
But do they? Yes, exactly.
There's this side world of a fantasy where he's leaving Usha to marry Erica Kirk, and it's this big weird fantasy.
I don't think that's real.
I don't see it happening, but it's this weird fantasy.
No. Like if you ever were to be around them privately, the two of them, you could almost instantly realize that she is the rock and the anchor who keeps everything sane and going.
Yeah, Megan has this fantastic interview that she did, the one and only actual sit down Usha's ever done since becoming second lady.
Usha
and it's a beautiful interview. And Megan says you can tell they're very in love.
They are, and she really is the rock. And when I think, and this is my opinion, and JD has never told me this, but this is what I've assumed, is that when you grow up and you live a life of, I don't want to say turmoil, but unpredictability, and you have somebody who is the one who's brings stability to a very chaotic life at times, and being in politics is chaotic, you kind of worship that as a very sacred thing. I really do. I think the TPUSA crowd does, and anyone who has an issue with her, she doesn't. What does she talk about? What would be the offensive thing? She has like a
Reading
reading challenge.
initiative. Yes. She's
Right, a
lovely.
reading initiative. There is nothing there. I don't think she's super comfortable with the limelight, as many first and second ladies aren't. Jill Biden aside, she definitely enjoyed it. But aside from her, I don't think that I could not name one thing the second gentleman ever said in public, ever. And I think that there's a lot of second ladies. I mean, Jill Biden, Jill Pence or whatever her name is. I can't remember her first name. She had the bunny book. There's very little that
I
second
think her
ladies
name was
ever do.
Mother.
Yeah, her name is.
Please. I just got the ick.
Yeah, drag queens and Mike Pence's wife call themselves Mother.
Mother. Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, that's why I think the TPS crowd loves him. And that's why they endorsed him so early.
Yemisi, from a Democratic, just to get back to our original point, from a Democratic strategist point, way back when, is Rubio actually the kind of Republican candidate the Democrats can get by, or should worry about, excuse me, in a general election? Because, I mean, when we do step back and we look at this from a big, skyscraper view, he is kind of, extreme. He just says it. He just comes in a nice package. Go ahead. Sorry.
Rubio. I mean, look, he got 99 votes for his confirmation. So his colleagues have always loved him. The thing
He's
is,
very well liked.
Yeah, he is very well liked. And I mean, I'm thinking back to what Ryan said before, we're talking about the war and like Rubio's in it. I do think he doesn't get, I think it's going to be a lot easier, even though JD isn't like in the mix, I think it would still be easy for someone like Rubio to come out of it kind of unscathed. I don't really think.
Well, I would just say this, and this being a senator, being a secretary of state is much different than running for president. Marco Rubio has run for president, and it went about as well as when Kamala Harris ran for president the first time. So,
yeah, but there was like 30,000 people running that year. It was like Bobby Jindal thought he had a chance, and then Trump.
Hey, Bobby!
I mean,
but yeah, but it did. I think he won a caucus in Minnesota, and that was it, and maybe Washington D.C. He didn't win. He didn't win anywhere.
But remember, I think Rubio has made such a transformation. You remember when he did the response to State of the Union and he took that sip?
Oh,
that
water.
Pause. Look at him now.
He wrote
he grew up. Yeah.
He wrote a book 3 years ago or
yeah.
2 years ago, and it had a whole section of where American foreign policy went wrong. And you know where the one thing he left out was? Iraq. He talked about the Cold War. He talked about China. He just kind of skipped over.
That was right in everyone's ears. Apologies.
I think there's a lot to like about Marco Rubio. I think he's a very good Secretary of State. I think there are certain things that he believes in that is great, and certain things that would be a problem. And I think that a lot of people look great running for president when they're not running for president.
Before we move into Kristi Noem, is anybody ever going to take this seriously with Secretary of War and Department of War and flipping the names? Because that's kind of insane, right?
I think
Are we supposed to be calling them that?
I don't think anyone cares.
I mean, it's okay.
I don't think anyone cares.
I'm looking at, I'm like, okay. Dan, I want to say hi to you before we move into all of this Kristi Noem crazy cuckoo stuff that happened over the last few days. Hi, Dan.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound really good.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I guess my question is, when it comes to 2028, I guess my feeling by then is like, I feel like America's not just going to have Trump fatigue, but Trump administration fatigue. And on the Democrat side, though I love what Gavin Newsom's doing in pushing back against Trump, I feel like that too, there's just too many people that don't like him. So I'm wondering, on both sides of the Republicans and Democrats, do you guys see scenarios where like unknowns can emerge out of the blue? Like an Ossoff type or Tallarico, or I don't know who on the Republican side, but can you guys see that? Or do you guys just see, the Rubios and the Vances as, shoo-ins?
You're thinking like Tallarico for president?
No, I would say like if, he's able to win, like he could be a strong VP candidate. But I'm just wondering, like, Ossoff gave a speech that impressed a lot of people. So I don't know. I'm just saying, I just feel like there's just so much fatigue going on with the faces in front of our cameras all the time. If America's ready for like just to go in a different direction on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I will say there's already fatigue building for Newsom. I think he started the shtick way too early. I'm already tired of it. And I think a lot of people on the Democratic side want fighters, but also just want somebody who's just not as contentious. I think it is like exhausting for Newsom to be playing this role. It doesn't even feel like him, first of all. He like gained his popularity by mimicking the president. And sometimes when I sit down and watch Newsom in these one-on-one interviews he's been doing, I'm just like, who are you? Who are you? Just like the candidate. So I think then you're going to end up getting people who are back of the pack, maybe not even consider. I will say Ossoff and his team are very much aware of that Epstein class speech that he gave, of the national profile that it's raised. Funders are very much aware of it. So I think that there are people, Mark Kelly is somebody who's coming around from the back to the
Mark
forefront
Kelly.
that are not at the top of the conversation right now, but within this year, as we get closer to the primaries and then after, will definitely be in the conversation. I think we'll all be ready for like just a breath of fresh air. I mean, Kamala's been on this book tour for like 200 days. It has felt like forever. I think
it's the Taylor Swift Eras tour for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris's Eras
so
tour.
Those two, when people bring up Newsom and Harris, I just go, give it more time, because I'm already to the point where I'm overfed on them. But I'm going to give people more time, and then we will see the Ossoffs and the folks that are at the back of the pack come to the front.
I mean, Gretchen Whitmer's not even doing.
I don't want to talk about a woman, Miranda. I don't want to do that. Don't do that. Let's not
break our hearts just
yet.
Okay.
She had all that face work done for nothing. I will say this on the Democratic side, whoever can win Black women over the age of 60 in the Deep South gets the nomination. That decides the entire Democratic nomination. Everything else really doesn't matter, especially if the South Carolina is the first state to go again. It's going to be over within the blink of an eye. And on the Republican side, I think it is already over.
Over. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think on the Democratic side, whoever gets Black women to vote for them in the Deep South, that's the nominee.
There's no Republican potentials that can come out of the blue.
Unless something happens to JD, like there's a massive scandal and like it takes down the entire administration. If that happens, then obviously it comes out of the blue. Otherwise, I don't think so. I mean, there will be a primary. I know, I've heard Ted Cruz is running. I've heard Brian Kemp is running. I've heard people are running, but that won't mean much. And on the Democratic side, still how Democrat politics work is Super Tuesday matters. Super Tuesday is the South. The South is Black voters over the age of 60. That is who decides the party nomination. So if you're Black and you're in the Deep South, you get to pick our next Democratic nominee. And if you are anybody else, you just, I guess, sit back and wait.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. I hope to see you next week, and keep the comments flowing. I know we're running on time, and I hope you guys don't have anything hard booked, because I have a few more things that I need to get to you, including.
Are we talking about Britney Spears getting arrested or not?
I wasn't going to, because I'm crazy, and I personally don't think she actually did get arrested. I think that it's all fake.
She was not even driving above the legal limit, and I'm sorry.
06.06. That's bull.
Yes. There are people cooking hot dogs in washing machines and posting on the internet. And that if they can walk free, she should be allowed to walk free too.
Thank you.
She needs to be back in that conservatorship. I'm sorry.
What? Well, not
She
under her
does.
dad and not under Lou Taylor because they're both abusive psychos. I mean, the three of us could
I'm seeing too
be
much
her
Britney
conservator.
cooch on the internet lately with the dancing.
Lately, that's from 20
Okay,
years
but
ago.
arguably probably a third of the population should be a conservatorship then. Like at least
I mean, I would love it if someone was in charge of my money because
no, they
I'm
were
not
so
to be charged
abusive
with
to
my
her.
money.
They were doing terrible things to her. They abused the hell out of poor girl. They
And like drugged her. Yeah.
Yes. No, they did put what IUD so she couldn't have a child. Like
And they
no,
had
like
cameras in her bedroom and like
yes,
listening
no,
devices all over
they were
her
paying
house.
off the boyfriends. No, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
they ruined
No.
her, but they've ruined
Very
her from
horrific.
independent living as well. I think.
But I
somebody's
also
gotta be
don't
that home too.
I don't believe that this was a sincere DUI in the sense of like what everybody thinks DUIs are, where they're like, going crazy. I think that she was probably out and started getting followed and got freaked out. And
Mhm.
like you said, under the legal limit. So, what does that even mean? They said mysterious substance that they sent out to a lab for testing. They haven't told us what that was in her car. It could have been anything.
Mhm.
And we have no mugshot. When Justin Timberlake got arrested for his DUI last year or
Mhm.
whatever, we had
Yeah.
mugshot in hours. We had the security camera footage within hours. We had the body cam. This is going to ruin the tour that he's now fighting to not get revealed. If this was a real, true, honest DUI, we would have had that.
Well, we've been waiting
Nobody,
for Justin
you're
Timberlake to
telling
get
me,
arrested for a long
telling me
time.
nobody has a picture of her leaving
Yeah.
the hospital or the jail. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So
It's like
my
Meredith Brooks on the plane. Where is the photos?
my cousin is married to a police officer in Thousand Oaks Moore Park where she got arrested. So I'm actually gonna just for you, Ryan, I will see what I can do about getting some of that.
Okay.
Maybe get him fired. But no, what I want to talk to you guys is this crazy DHS hearing for Kristi Noem that ended up getting her fired. The White House, and if we can queue up, don't play it yet, but if we can queue up the affair questioning, the line of questioning about her affair with Corey Lewandowski, because this is the worst kept secret in all of the United States that she and Corey Lewandowski have been engaging in a romance, if that's what you want to call it. But she got canned from her job, and this is the first big firing in the Trump administration cabinet, and I'm quite surprised it took over a year for him to fire someone because we know he loves to do that, and I'm not going to make a stupid apprentice joke, but she got reassigned to something called, and I'm going to have to read this because it's insane, Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, which honestly sounds like a bootleg Wonder Woman costume that you would get from like a Spirit Halloween because they couldn't get the rights from DC. Um, Shield of the Americas, which is on brand for her because we know how much she loves to play dress up. So, I don't know what this means. It sounds like a made up job for someone who doesn't want to admit that they got fired. So, Ashley, can we play the clip of the DHS hearing where they're asking her about whether or not she had sexual relationship with that man?
Belongs to the gentlelady from California, but it'd be nice if you would let her respond.
I will. I want to let you know it is about your judgment and decision-making. It is about the 260,000 employees that work under you that want to make sure that you are giving information and making decisions clearly. It is about conflict of interest. It is about a national security risk. Department of Homeland Security was created right after 9/11 to protect the homeland. And DHS has circulated an internal bulletin to law enforcement partners warning that the conflict of the war we're in could inspire lone actors or small-scale cyber activity inside the United States, according to a memo obtained by ABC News. So American lives are at risk. The people who work for you are at risk. And they want to know that the person at the top, you, are making decisions clearly, without any sort of cloudiness.
That was not the clip that I wanted. Sorry. The one that I specifically asked for was where they're fighting. Ashley's saying it was. Okay. The one that I wanted was yeah, but sorry, Ashley, we're having a disagreement over texting. The one I wanted was where she's asking her specifically if they were engaged in a sexual relationship. And anyway, she said no, like over and over again. Or no, excuse me, she never said no. Okay, so she ended up getting let go for part of that. And then but the big problem was this $220 million taxpayer funded border advertising campaign. And if we can get that one queued up also, it's got Kristi Noem front and center. She's like riding around looking like Jessie from Toy Story. She's on a horse talking about different stuff about the border. And it raised questions on Capitol Hill because of the connections. So apparently it was like she didn't bid it out. It was like a political commercial, not a government program, whatever. And I don't know why it cost her $220 million. That's more expensive than like most Hollywood big blockbusters. If we can we get that one going? Yeah, thank you.
Why do I love these wide open spaces? They remind me of why our forefathers came here. Not just for its beauty, but for the freedom only America provides. I'm Kristi Noem. From the cowboys who tamed the West, to the titans who built our cities, to the dreamers who chased the impossible, America has always rewarded vision and grit. Our greatness calls people to us for a chance to prosper, to live how they choose, to become part of something special. Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here, but that freedom's a precious thing, and we defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences. But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies. From President Trump and me, welcome home.
Okay. I mean,
I didn't realize it was about President Trump until the very end.
but yeah, I mean, and that's what he's pissed about is like, it's all about her riding a horse. And then it's,
She's just treating, it's like interesting watching somebody running an agency as a secretary, which exists as an executive position within a cabinet that is for the president, at the service of the president. It's interesting having watched her operate it as if she herself is like the main principal. I think that's where there was some miscommunication as she came to Washington with the idea that this is Kristi Noem's DHS. And it's like, no. This is Trump's DHS, which oversees immigration, which is the issue that was one of the top things he won on, that he beat Dems on. And now he's underwater on it. And it is probably because you spent the whole time thinking that it was your issue.
And dressing up. Like, considering the fact that they can't pay the TSA workers and then they're blowing $200-something million on that, which I think probably like her son could have shot that on an iPhone for $50. I don't understand it. I think we may have lost Ryan, but okay, we figured out what happened with the clip. It's all good. Yemisi, you worked in the comms department. You worked in, if Biden or Obama had blown $200 million on that bullshit commercial, I think that would have been the scandal of the decade. And I mean, the tan suit was the scandal of, we're still talking about it.
What a time that was.
I mean, we're still talking about it 20 years later. I don't know how long it's been. But, from a Democratic perspective, does Kristi Noem's removal change the political fight? I mean, is this an ethics issue, a spending issue, both? What is this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an issue of stupidity. I think it's somebody who completely encased themselves with Lewandowski, with just a bunch of yes men and women who came up. I mean, like Trisha McLaughlin. We haven't even gotten to like the Trisha McLaughlin, her husband. I mean,
Oh,
she
well,
just,
yeah, this was like a
yeah,
no bid deal that her aide hired, what was it, her husband or her
her
husband's
husband.
company to
Yeah.
do it. And so
Hmm.
there's just it's just such a
And they had
tangled
worked with her
web.
from South Dakota. You know, Lewandowski had been out in South Dakota with her. I mean, she just brought in her people to uplift her voice. And the thing is, a lot of Dems called it from the start. They were like, look, if this is DHS, if we're going into a Trump administration, DHS is going to be one of the most consequential agencies to your presidency. This is it. This is who we're bringing at the forefront of it. I
Yeah.
mean, I think he set himself up. Like he maybe Trump couldn't see beyond his own ego to see when somebody had one bigger than his. But like Kristi Noem walked into Washington, D.C. with only thinking about Kristi Noem.
You know, I got a story from a DC insider who was at a party where someone was asking Kristi Noem, like, hey, you know, do you see yourself running for president? And not necessarily in 28 because she was in mixed company, but you know, she just kind of gave, and this was before all of this happened, and she kind of gave like, you know, a little smile and a wink and said, you know, everybody could use more Noem, something like that. And it's just like, ew. Um, when this kind of stuff comes out and she's given this new title, special envoy, is this a real job? Because
No.
it's not a real job. It's made up. And so is this just kind of like a soft launch for her actually being fired and just sent back to go and try to figure out how she's gonna, you know, go back to killing puppies at her farm?
You can't fire her, because if you fire her, then you're saying, okay, Democrats, you were right, because Democrats have been calling for her to be fired long before Minnesota.
Begging, yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota was when the cauldron of like a banging was like at its peak. But she was one of the people within the cabinet that people were like, get her out of here, from last year. So now if you fire her, is it because you want to fire her, or is it because of pressure? I think much easier to give her another esteemed position. You know, he had some Republican influencers out on the internet that were saying Kristi Noem got a promotion. I was like, I've never in my life heard of special envoy being a promotion. Steve Witkoff, as special envoy, who has meetings in Israel, has meetings in Ukraine.
He's constantly traveling on the road. Yeah, that's a legitimate special envoy
him
job.
And Jared Kushner get to operate on their own. Like, they have the total trust of the president. Mind you, Marco Rubio released a statement saying he looks forward to working with Kristi Noem because she'll be working for him. No longer in cabinet meetings, reporting to Marco Rubio. That's not a promotion, baby. Can't convince me of that.
And I find it hard to believe he actually looks forward to working with her. Yeah, you know, I always just wonder what costume is coming with this special envoy, golden shield, whatever. I would remiss if we didn't end if we ended the show before talking about this insane story about the Pentagon and this surf and turf budget spending craziness that came out yesterday. So if you missed it, there is this government watchdog group that says the Defense Department under Pete Hegseth late last year spent roughly $22 million on lobster and steak in a single month last fall. This is a huge they spent like billions of dollars on nonsense, but a lot of it was like furniture and other things that are like normal business expenses. But this is from a transparency group called Open the Books, and they found out that they spent $7 million on lobster tails, $15 million on ribeye steaks, $2 million on Alaskan king crab, and another $1 million on salmon. And dessert too. I'm not going to leave out the donuts that were 140 grand, and even their ice cream machines for another 125 grand. So this sounds like, a nice big party that was all spent around the same time. I'm not saying that they paid for parties at Mar-a-Lago. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that out, but that's, maybe I am. I'm just not saying it. So I'm going to say this plainly, the timing of this is very suspicious because it happened around September. And if we want to turn back our clocks and remember our calendar and remember what was happening in September, that's when they were pulling WIC and SNAP and saying that we don't have any money to feed starving children, but we've got a ton of money for lobster and we've got a ton of money for ribeyes. And if anybody has ever worked with a budget or had to build a budget, or you're in charge of your department budget, we all know you max it out so you don't lose it for the next year. So clearly this is a thing that you have to do, but the optics of this are so incredibly bad, disgusting, gross. Americans were starving in the streets, and this is at the same time that the administration and the Republicans in Congress were refusing to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, the premium subsidies, so this is when people like folks in my life, my friends, were seeing their premiums getting ready to skyrocket, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to ration their health care and who in their family was going to get to have coverage for the next round. So this is a very let them eat cake vibe, in my opinion. Yemisi, I want to flip this to you, because if this headline had broken during your time at the Biden White House in the press office, conservative media, this would have been wall to wall. This would have been a nonstop story, probably for a week, calling for heads on sticks. So, I mean, how would you have handled this when you were during your tenure?
Well, it would have never happened because Secretary Lloyd Austin has no time for that kind of frivolity.
No lobster tails on his watch.
Yeah, that's what happens when you hire someone and put them in a position who has spent most of their time serving overseas, being the center of a military family. His wife does a lot of advocacy work for military families as well. Like they don't have time for that kind of stuff. In fact, they make fun of the people who get into it for that, because that's total cosplays. Like you have those big meetings and it's just generals cutting up filet mignons and talking about wars if it's a game of Battleship.
Crazy.
Secretary Austin would have never put us in that position. I mean, the prostate thing was kind of the most swirl we ever got from him. But I mean, President Biden would have had to have spoken to it. I mean, he would have held himself responsible because he hired the person who's running the agency. And I don't think that President Trump is going to say anything about Hegseth. In fact, I think he really likes Hegseth. I think they get along really, really well. Trump was on his show all the time when Hegseth was just on Fox News. So he's going to give him some coverage here.
There seems to be not a lot of mention to this, and I'm quite frankly shocked that this comparison to the SNAP benefits being cut at the same time that this is happening isn't being made more clearly, and people aren't shouting about it. Is the problem the spending itself, or the incentives in Washington that is use your budget or lose it? Because there have to be better ways to spend your money than, perishable seafood. That's not something that lasts, dudes. That's not like MREs for the military, or, better. I can't even think, because I'm riled up about it. But there's got to be better ways to spend your budget if you have to max it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not buying into the use it or lose it. If anything, I think that they even stretch it beyond. To me, every business operates with the use it or lose it model. So
right.
What you don't do is just feed yourself. But I think it's also, part of the story is the number, right? But it's also the items. The items are, if I was making a mockumentary of what I believed an elite class of people who did not care about struggling Americans were doing, I would do it like people working in defense, feeding themselves steak and lobster tail while everybody else is trying to figure out where their next meal comes from. It's out of a movie.
Well, it's you think about RFK, and not that he's involved in this, but it's he says people on SNAP aren't allowed to buy Dr. Pepper anymore because it's not healthy. And it's okay, maybe that's their one enjoyment. Maybe that's, they live this terrible life. They are on SNAP. They obviously don't have a lot of money. They need to be on government assistance. Maybe they do want to enjoy a Dr. Pepper on a Friday night after working all week. But here we're going to spend nearly $200,000 on ice cream machines because, we deserve it after our we need something to wash down our Alaskan king crab legs. It's like, fuck off.
Those intelligence briefings, you need a good cone after an intelligence briefing.
I need my soft serve immediately. Someone go get me a swirl. You know, I'm sure there's some kind of a bureaucratic explanation for it, but I can't think of anything that doesn't make me want to throw up. So, especially also at the same time, around this time last year when they're cutting the SNAP and they're buying the Lobster, isn't that when Trump had all the pharmaceutical guys in and the Ozempic CEO like fainted in his office? So it's like, take Ozempic, eat the lobster and the ice cream, and then pass out. So enjoy. I have a show update for everybody who's been following along with us on this jabroni pig douche lord Tony Gonzales finally resigned, sort of. If you remember, we've been following this story about this asshole who, congressman in Texas representing the Uvalde area. He is the guy who sexually harassed his employee to the point that she died by suicide. She literally set herself on fire. And it's a horribly tragic story. He was up for re-election. Inexplicably, it went into runoff. But he finally decided to do the right thing. He went on Joe Pag's podcast and said that he is going to drop out of the race and conceded to his opponent, this man, Brandon Herrera, who bizarrely is a gun influencer in Uvalde. I don't really feel like I need to comment on that much further. I think that that's bizarre also in and of itself. So, hopefully Uvalde can get better representation, because between Tony Gonzales and a gun guy in Uvalde, it's all weird and all bad altogether. But thank goodness that this guy is going to be unemployed very soon. He's going to finish out his term, which I believe is January of 27. So Yemisi, I do have a question for you. You know, it's so against the ethics rules for him to even have engaged in this relationship, if that's what you want to call it, with this colleague. How is he like, are there going to be any realistic consequences for him, or is this just another day in Washington? Because I mean, everyone was calling for him to resign, even like Lauren Boebert, who isn't the pillar of morals.
Yeah, I mean,
he was even screaming for him to get out. So
when Speaker Johnson was talking about it, though, he dodged it because there's just such a slim majority. Nothing's going to be done. He's still going to be an active voting member because Republicans are down to, I think it's 4 or 5. And then when you count, like, sometimes you don't get Massey on board. There's like one other member that his name is escaping me, but like he Chip Roy, he sometimes goes off on his own. So like, it's not a comfortable like bucket here that you have to work with.
Speaker Johnson was defending him. Oh, we all make mistakes. I'm like, dude, that is not.
You can't afford. I mean, yeah. I know there were some women, some members, most of the women, I did not hear a single male Republican in the House say anything. But for the most part, Republicans did not jump into the Tony Gonzales thing because they know the slim majority they have. They're looking down and seeing November. They know the House is most likely to flip. They have a very limited amount of time to enact the president's like legislative priorities for 2026. So I think they would have gotten a direct call from the president had they been asking for this man to resign. There's no way that they were going to censure him or do anything of consequence.
This guy is so gross. There's a few more things that I wanted to get into, but we are so late on time. Yemisi, thank you so much for staying. I do want to end on one last thing that's just because I like to end on something that's just kind of goofy because everything has been so heavy. Can we cue up the something that I had missed from the Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein deposition? So before we get out of here, there's just, one thing that, dogs are going to dog. And I don't know if you saw this.
I already know what you're talking about.
it's a thing of beauty.
He never changes.
he never changes. And bless his heart. They will never make me hate him. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Nancy Mace was questioning Bill Clinton about something. I don't even remember because I'm so distracted by his reactions to her. But, Nancy Mace is a beautiful woman. And if there's anything President Clinton loves is a beautiful woman. Can we please play this clip of Bill having his moment with Representative Mace? Because, I love it.
Was never at my house in Chappaqua for any personal reasons.
I didn't say anything for anything
No,
personal.
you didn't, but you have a great tone in your voice, and you're very good at it.
That's just.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment.
Thank you. And I did not go to Yale Law School or any law school for that matter.
Yes.
The spirit fingers. Oh, I love it. Inject it into my veins. I mean, they talk for so long, you just get like the highlights and stuff, but that came across my feed in the last couple of days, and I'm just, I just wanted to bless everybody with that because he was 1 second away from barking at her. So
he got that dog in him still.
Yes, he does, and you know what? I think she's like, I will take that as the compliment, and
Yes,
it was. Hey,
the attorney's next to him. Oh my God, they had a hard time.
When last week I played it when he's going through the binder and just smiling, look at this photograph, and he's just like smiling at it, and it's like it's his high school yearbook. I mean, that's how I look at my own
out of that.
Instagram. Oh my God, he was having the best time ever, and he got mad. His lawyer's like yanking the binders, give it back. Oh. He was having a time. I think he would have just stayed in that depot all day long, and they're just elbowing him and, oh my goodness, yanking him by the ear. I bet he got in big trouble when he got home because Hillary's in there giving a law class. She's trying to teach them all about the law and just being the bad bitch that she is. She looked beautiful, which is,
great
totally
lighting,
irrelevant, amazing makeup. Whoever did her alleged lower facelift, whatever work she's had done is incredible, and I need the name of that doctor because she looks amazing, stunning. And Bill just going in there and being him. They will never make me hate the Clintons. I'm sorry, everybody watching who hates them or whatever. I have a heart for them. Yemisi, thank you for staying. Oh, I'm not leaving. Ryan is gone, but we are still here. He's not like dead. He's just gone. He left. Ryan reminded us before the show started that today is the anniversary of one of the best memes to ever grace our planet, Sweet Brown. If you remember, she is the woman who was interviewed on the street after a fire broke out in her apartment. And we were blessed with this. I think he said it was 13 or 15 years ago. I still say this all the time. I don't know about you, Yemisi, but I recently used this on my Instagram less than a month ago. For my daughter who got sick. Please roll the clip.
Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop, and then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, oh Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
I love her. I hope she's doing well. And bronchitis can be recurring. So I hope her bronchitis is not recurring because, yes, Ashley, in our comments, she is a true American hero. And I love Sweet Brown. And thank you for blessing us with that because people do not have time for that. I didn't have time for my daughter to have bronchitis. It was horrible. So thank you to everybody for tuning in today. Thank you, Yemisi, for staying late with me. I could talk to you all day long. I absolutely love and adore you. Follow Yemisi at YemYabs and at Yemisi on X, and follow us at Citizen McCain on Instagram and TikTok, and at Citizen McCain YouTube on YouTube. And we will be back next week. Thank you so much.